Welcome. It is good to see you. Please, sit. Pour yourself a good cup of tea. Today is a tale most exceptional. A tale of honor and dignity in the face of great evil. Today's tale is the tale of a young moon, a tabaxi befallen by a series of dire necessity. This story is one true to my heart. Welcome, one and all, to the Writ of the Weaver. The protagonist of today's story is a tabaxi by the name of Moon Glint. Storied, though young. I had personal dealings with him, and he himself told me many stories of his travels. Always a new threat to rise to, and always the world looked to him. Though he did not desire it, he and his party became infamous across the world for their protection of the common folk and liberation of Silverwing Hold, a city that grew into a bastion of defense against growing evil. Their story, however, is one for another time. Today, we speak of Moon's personal struggles. Long after his rise to fame, that was instilled by his very own uncle. Moon was born to a family of nomadic tabaxi nobles, who traveled about the world visiting their extensive list of friends and family. These gypsies traded less often in gold than they did in historical wealth. Loved by all across the world for their enchanting retellings of stories, these people were beloved to me especially. Some of my favorite people in all of Caernin. Moon grew up with many different opportunities in front of him, though he was somewhat babied. When he showed interest in the worlds and wonders of spellcraft, utilizing the very resonance of the weave itself to bend the world to his will, his father took the opportunity to teach him a very worldly lesson. The bard school that he visited was not one of music, song, nor dance, but a military school led by the Dervish Church of Divinity. Moon's uncle, Caernin, had discovered the school and recommended it, hoping to bend Moon's mind to see things his way. Moon was taught order, diligence, the ways of war. He hated it, and found it disgusting to know that the world may be so focused on the ways that one could kill. Moon knew not of the forces of evil that crept below the surface, the creatures of night. But he was to know them soon. Caernin Glint, whom Moon had known all his life and even looked up to at one point, was a man who craved power. A hunger so lustful it led him to consuming the very souls of the people he slew. He found this power in the Righteous Hand, a sect of most unsavory religious zealots who had broken from the very ideology of the Dervish Church they claimed to represent. Fell magics and treachery were their keystones, and the seething evil spread like plague to those hungry enough to follow. Caernin of the Righteous Hand fell to this evil within an instant of glimpsing the possibilities. But he needed to feel justified, and so he chose to bring Moon into his own lust. He tried to recruit the young boy, decidedly slow at first. Moon suffered the college for many years. He was taught many ways to fight with swords. utilizing forms of dance to distract his foes. His favorite, though, were the lessons on magics that drew upon the very movements of creation. He took to it very well, a savant in his own way, though he certainly caught many forms of punishment for his quick tongue over the years. Quite simply, Moon's interest was unperturbed. He, in his mind, was not destined for blood and steel. A life laden with fantasy and pleasant exchange would do just fine. He wished to see the world, sure, but he did not wish to fight its wars. He left the college after 3 years of studying there, unceremoniously creeping out in the night. Of course, before he left, his quick fingers found their way into a weapons vault. He absconded with a good bit of maps, scripts of magic, other small things, and of course a magic scimitar and breastplate belonging to one of the most unsavory individuals of the whole college. Just because one is the head of the college does not make him deserve respect. Caernin saw his opportunity to sweep, however, and Moon was finally beginning to sway into the ideology of the righteous hand. Caernin thought that he had Moon for sure. He waited patiently until Caernin had heard tell of a heroic tabaxi, one who had aided in the destruction of not only a thieves' guild, but a devil who held dominion over the city of Silverwing Hold. Caernin began his plans, sending messages to Moon attempting to seem loving and caring. Once Moon became unguarded, Caernin told him a great lie that Moon himself could not possibly decipher. Caernin told Moon that his father was disappointed greatly and wished to excommunicate Moon from the tribe. Caernin further twisted the truth by stating he had been banished from the tribe himself for defending poor Moon. It is true, he had been removed, but for the atrocities he had committed against mages of the world in order to steal their power. Under the guise of religious justification, Caernin stole the souls of many with his very own hexblade at his side. The hexblade, an ancient demon's soul, molded into a weapon's form, twisted Caernin's mind to the point of madness. Moon did not feel right about the situation and mostly ignored Caernin, not wishing to interact with him at all. Moon simply continued his path with the saviors of Silverwing. Caernin continued to try to dissuade him, but Moon only became more suspicious. That was until his father visited, telling Moon that Caernin had been banished for good reason, and that he has in no way been ashamed of Moon. Moon's father was surprised, in all honesty, that Moon stayed within the walls of the college as long as he did. The man Moon became was a man that his father could be proud of, and Moon swore there to seek the death of Caernin, so that he may rest and the family name be unsullied. Their interaction lessened, as Caernin realized that Moon was not to be dissuaded. Caernin's hatred for this only fueled his evil acts, his hunger for death. Caernin rose within the righteous hand to the rank of general, and commanded armies to attack various locations alongside the forces of the night that crept across the world like a plague. The righteous hand moved on the simple hills of Shintan, where the halfling people lived peacefully. This quiet place had little defense to offer, and fell to their armies like dry leaves to a strong wind. The saviors were called into action, and heard that Caernin himself was involved, realizing at this moment that Caernin indeed was involved with the righteous hand. Moon's oath to kill Caernin presented its opportunity. The Savior's plan was to attack the camp held by the righteous hand, in hopes of leaving smoldering tents of ruined food, blasted ramparts, and the death of as many enemy forces as possible. Airships were called in to pepper the great part of the camp with bombs, and the saviors moved into the central ramparts amongst the chaos. Fighting with Caernin's personal guards, they traded vicious blows. The fight went on for but a minute before Caernin himself stepped out from his tent and called the fight to halt. He held his spear aloft, himself unsullied. The spear was formed by some form of grey opaque crystalline substance, as well as a full gold haft. The tip pointed directly towards Moon's heart. The spearhead itself glowed with a ghastly red electricity, with ghost-white fog pouring from what seemed to be cracks in the very hilt itself. Caernin called out to Moon, planting himself firmly and snarling with a ghastly, toothy maw. He challenged Moon to a fight, one-on-one, in the very center of the camp. Bombs fell all about them, and the forces of the righteous hand were being crushed. Moon agreed on the condition that neither use magic, in a hope that Caernin himself relied heavily on magic. Moon rolled the dice. As fellow savior Zyla shrieked out in protest, Caernin had every single individual there banished for the duration of the fight, including all of his forces, but the mage who cast the banishment. Caernin honored both requests, no magic whatsoever, and a purely one-on-one fight. Moon, with his recently purchased powerful magical scimitar, and Caernin with his hexblade that held shape of a spear throughout the fight. The two begin trading blows. Back and forth they skirmished, and within the first strikes, Moon realized that Caernin was trained in fighting far more than he was. Though he could keep up well enough, Moon took blow after blow, empowered by Caernin's combat superiority that cleaved flesh from bone. Despite his pain, the disadvantage, the righteousness of what he was doing, Moon refused to stain his honor for the sakes of Caernin Glint. Moon fought long enough that the banishment wore off. Trading blows back and forth, Moon used no magic in order to save himself. He took the last blow to the heart, as Zyla came back screaming. Try as the saviors would, They merely were forced into glimpsing as the teleportation commenced. Moon's soul rended from his very body into the spirit's self. Swallowed and trapped, the body left behind could not be revived unless his soul were to be freed. Caernin escaped upon the fell magics that slew Moon, the savior. Moon was buried in Silverwing Hold, in the Grove of Heroes, tended by Azar, the keeper of planted forests there. Though his body buried and soul trapped, his life was sworn upon vengeance to all of the forces of evil that would see this sort of thing happen about the world. Moon became a well-known hero of these lands, one of the many who had laid their life down for the safety and prosperity of others. He became a bastion of hope, the truest of nobles. Weeks later, after the forces of evil were ravaged, carved, and gutted by the saviors and forces of the Silver Alliance, Caernin was captured by the Orcish and Elven forces of Nazavale. He was brought to swift justice, and his hexblade was destroyed. Every soul trapped within, including Moon's, was released to peace. Finally, Moon's sword, Jade's Touch, was returned to Zyla upon her return from the abyss and victory against the usurper god Hordrax, who was to blame for the evil that spread across the world. Moon's life was fully avenged, and his soul left to peace. Though he did not wish to be a hero, he was one of the truest senses. This concludes episode 1 of Writ of the Weaver. I hope you have enjoyed your stay, and look forward to many stories to come. Have a wonderful evening.